Welcome, everybody, out to podcast number 313. Are you ready to switch to tax planning and integrate that with your Last Planner and Scrum systems? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. I hope you're doing well. On this episode, I'm recording the audio through... I need to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. What is my audio better be through my microphone? Yes. Okay, so we're recording, and I'm recording live on Zoom so that... Not live. Wait a minute. I'm recording on Zoom through my computer so I can get the audio and the video and publish it in multiple formats. I got my whiteboard right behind me. I hope you can't hear my air conditioner so much. It is 113 degrees out today in Phoenix. And while I absolutely love going to the lake, that's still a little bit hot. So I will be going to the lake on Tuesday with the kids. That's the only time I could fit it in. We're going to go on a little boat trip. But in the meantime, it is like super hot, and I don't want to turn the AC off. But my little plenum idea didn't work. I don't know if you ever saw the first version of my recording booth shed, but the first time I had a little plenum and I had the air conditioner heading sideways with a little cover so that it would absorb the sound, and it was hot and it didn't work. And so we kind of went back to the square one. So anyway, let's just keep going. I won't ramble on here, but I do want to say that I finished the Lean Takt book, the second revision. Spencer's reviewing that right now, and then it will go into editing. I'm going to take down the Elevated Construction Tax Planning book from Amazon, the current version that we have, and then just reroute this one to market, hopefully on July 1st. So what we're going to do is keep the text the same size, remove the pictures, insert QR codes, and link them to videos that we have on the Lean Takt YouTube site. So that will drive the price way down for the book so that we can scale it and make it more accessible, but it will be in black and white. So I'm very excited about that. So as we get started here into this podcast tonight, I want to say that Elevate Construction, we do recovery, training, consulting. And if you have a question or you want to attend a boot camp or your project's in trouble, or you just need some general advice, like, come talk to us. Like, we love you. You're going to love working with us. Unless you don't go very fast and you're not making a ton of progress, then you might be a little annoyed at us. But everyone else, the high performers, you'll love us. Give us a call. We can help you. So before I go too far into the podcast, let me talk about two things. What am I excited about in life? And I'm looking at my notes over here. I'm excited about being done with the Elevating Construction Tax Planning, the second edition. Heading into going to Europe, to Germany, to probably France, Sweden, and then Norway to meet with Marco and Janosch, Fabian and Julie. And then I'm going to try and talk Nicholas Modig into letting me visit him. And then I'll go to Contact Norway and do some boot camps, and it'll be fantastic. So that's what I'm excited about. And because I'm finishing the tax portion, at least for now, I can head right into writing Elevating Construction Senior Superintendents, and that book's going to be super thick, so I just need to jam. Boy, I really hope I get that done by the end of September, because it's got some fantastic content in it, and I'm really excited about that. So that's what I'm excited about in life. Let's talk about some feedback. Jason, by way of introduction, I am, and he says his name, a VDC manager working for a contractor based out of the St. Louis, Chicago area with projects across the country. I've been following your blog, podcast, and started reading your books, and I think you share a lot of great content that resonates with what I'm experiencing or have experienced so far across projects I've worked on. I must commend you on the effort and work you are taking to share with others these lessons learned to elevate the industry, and someday I wish I'm able to do the same. Listening to your blog, one topic of interest that I wanted to reach out to was the visual feature of Workboard. I'm wondering if you have a redacted example without, of course, the company name or secrets or whatnot that you may be allowed to share with us or that I can refer to understand what this looks like or how this can be made. I'm trying to identify areas of work that multiple contractors work on sequentially, where it is important to communicate the best sequence and the accepted quality of work from the prior trade before the next trade jumps on, like in a bathroom, starting from rough-in to final accessories with everything else that comes in between those two milestones. Please let me know when you get a chance to, and thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my to-do list right now so I don't forget. I think there was a request the other day that I mentioned in the podcast that I completely tanked. Actually, get back to that person. If you're on the podcast and you're like, hey, you didn't get back to me, can you help me with that? So Ashwin sent future of work board. I get a lot of requests for that. It's a really interesting thing. I love the feature of work board. So today, let me make sure I'm on track. Today, we're going to continue the podcast. Here's the conflict. We just need to get started with this. If you're starting down your Takt journey, please let me know. I'll help you. We'll help you. We'll help you at Lean Takt. We'll point you in the direction. You can sign up for Takting and contact Marco and Yanosh. You can hook up with Timoti. There are a number of sources where you can learn this stuff. And so please just reach out to us. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you audibly here and right here on the screen through video on this podcast. How can we get our journey started? And so I'll do that, like I said, visibly and in an auditory fashion. And then kinesthetically, you can actually just do one with us if you want to. So here, let me just tell you this. It's only recently been for me that I've understood the easiest way to implement Takt and Last Planner, Takt and Scrum, and Takt and just the advanced work packaging that's done within Takt planning. This is kind of what happened. That was the aha moment. I was working with O'Shea Builders, great company. They're high speed. They use the Excel template. I don't know if you've ever seen them where it has the weekly work plan and then, 1 or 2 weeks out ahead for the make ready look ahead schedule. And so it has the activities to the left. You can X out the items in the center or actually just put in, crew numbers per activity. And then it has the variance. Did you meet it? Yes or no, the variance, and then the percent plan complete, and then the future weeks. And it's all in an Excel template. And it finally hit me talking to Marco and Yanosh that the work steps in Takt planning can translate into the weekly work plan, so the weekly work plan does not become burdensome. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and I'm going to jam out. I've got my headset. Felipe Engineer always makes fun of me because he says they're not good enough quality, but until we get better cash flow, I ain't going to do it. I'm going to stick with these until we get jamming a little bit more. So I'm going to mark here on the board. Ooh, one thing. I don't know if you saw me that I'm looking more fit. My cheeks are a little bit thinner, but anybody looking, but I'm at 201 from probably originally 225. But when I hired a fitness coach, I was at 219. So now I'm down to 201. So I'm almost done with the COVID-19 pounds, and I'm going to head towards 196, which is, in my opinion, my ideal weight. If any of you have a health or weight problem, I highly recommend hiring a fitness coach to hold you accountable. Or if you want to text me every day, I'll text you when I go jogging. We'll hold each other accountable. Just let me know. But let's go ahead and get right into this podcast here tonight and jam out. So for those of you listening and not watching, imagine me writing on the board. But really with Takt planning, I've talked about this before. You're probably tired of me talking about it. But instead of having activities in a CPM schedule that are in sequence in a waterfall type format, based around a work breakdown structure that only shows one type of flow, which is the workflow, Takt planning essentially summarizes those sequences into what's called Takt wagons onto a single row. So you still have the time scale vertically in the columns, but from a left-right row standpoint, a horizontal standpoint, it's summarized into what's called a Takt wagons into what's called a Takt sequence. So that row of Takt wagons is called a Takt sequence. And what happens is you differentiate between different tact zones. So if I have zone 1 as my first tact sequence, and then or zone 2 as my second tact sequence, they are compared against each other, or to each other rather, but they're offset by a stagger, meaning the start of the first sequence is different than the start of the second sequence. Now, each tacked wagon will have multiple, either a single or multiple work packages in them, and they are color coded so that you can see, if you go left to right, workflow, and if you go diagonal from the top left to the bottom right, trade flow, and if you go from top down, logistical flow. You can see all three types of flow. Now, this is what I love about this. You can see a couple of different key things. You can see consistency, continuity, and you can see the rhythm and stagger. So I'll just say rhythm. When you can see these will help you make sure that your flows, your workflow, your trade flow, and your logistical flow are all optimized, right? Consistency means that from tacked wagon to tacked wagon to tacked wagon each week, that you have a consistent leveled amount of work, consistent crews, consistent workers, consistent trades, consistent equipment. Continuity means that you don't have a gap in the sequence, right? If you had a buffer tacked or an empty tacked in the sequence, right, there's less continuity in there. It's not a solid sequence with workflow. The other thing is your rhythm. Everything has to have a nice drum beat to it, and that stagger from area to area. So that's how a tact plan is set up. So if I had to summarize it, it's a scheduling system that shows all three types of flow. Really jamming and excited about that. So let me take you to why this is important for the Last Planner system or for Scrum. When you create a tact plan, you identify on your floors first, okay, here are my zones. I'm going to split them up into tact zone 1, 2, 3, 4. You create your, I'm just going to draw single, for those of you watching me, I'm just going to draw single lines, but you create your 4 tact sequences, and you look at that, and then you do, once you have your tact sequences and you've identified your tact time, meaning what is the drum beat for this schedule, and what are your individual tacts, your tacked wagons, what is that time duration that those fit within. In this case, let's say it's every 5 days, right? That's pretty common. Once you've identified that, you can turn it into the formula that says the number of tacked wagons plus tacked sequences minus 1 multiplied by the tact time equals your duration. And we're not going to cover that tonight, but then you can actually figure out what is the ideal throughput time for this tact phase. Now, you're able to do that and then enter in buffers into the system and optimize each of the tact wagons with the right work packages with the right work steps. So imagine you're in a single week and you're in a single tact sequence in a single tact wagon, and let's say that tact wagon has 1 work package. And let's say that work package, I'm making it up, but let's say it's overhead mechanical, okay? The genius of the system that we're going to talk about on the podcast is that the tact wagon might be labeled overhead mechanical, but the work package is overhead mechanical. This has work steps in it. Overhead mechanical might be layout, the work steps rather, layout, install hangers, okay? Install large duct, okay? And then on and on and on. And then at the end, it might be, pressure test, right? And then maybe city inspection. There are, I'm going to blow your mind with this, inspection. Maybe there's even a preparation work step that says, pre-construction meeting, pre-con meeting, okay? There are work steps here inside that system or inside that work package. And so what we now have are a list of things that need to be done in the right week. when we do a pull, oh, and by the way, I have to say that this is done collaboratively. This is done collaboratively with the trade partners. And I'm just going to say this for simplicity. You essentially do a pull plan with them, right? And you come up with the sequence. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later. Tyler asked me to make sure that I'm aligning properly with how do you work package this sequence into basically a tacked sequence, tacked wagons, and tacked work packages and tacked work steps. But the bottom line is, from your pull plan that you do, the tasks will either become detailed work steps, they will either become work packages, or they will become tacked wagons in the sequence. Basically, this is raw data that you're going to package. If it's a high-level summary of a general, basically a phase of work, a process, it's probably a tacked wagon. If it's a specific process, a scope that has to be in the same area with a different trade, it's probably a work package. And if it's a detailed step that's a part of a scope of work, part of a scope of work that it has to be summarized as a work package, is probably a work step. So detailed, scope specific, and then phase specific within the area at the time within the process, right? So this pull plan gets packaged into a 3-layered system to where you might have, so these tacked wagons might have 1 or 2 work packages in them, and then each work package has work steps. Okay, so the genius of the system is, instead of asking somebody in a pull plan to say, hey, here's the workflow, here's the sequence, and now we flow. Well, you don't really flow. You only have workflow. You don't have trade flow, workflow, and logistical flow. Okay, so only when, and I want you to remember this, whether you're watching me or whether you're doing the audio, please, you will not know if you have flow until you have all 3. So you don't really have flow in a pull plan until you compare the pull plans by areas together. That's when you start to see those 3 dimensions: the workflow, the trade flow, and the logistical flow. So my point is, if you have pull plans that are entering into a 6-week make ready look ahead and a weekly work plan at random, that's not good. When you enter that in collaboratively with trade partners into tacked sequences, tacked trains, and compare them together with continuity, consistency, and the right rhythm, then you know what work has to be done when. I always say you can tell the difference between a Last Planner meeting and a Takt and Last Planner meeting. The Takt and Last Planner meeting, they will not be talking about when things happen. They'll be talking about how to make the work ready. If you're in a Last Planner only meeting, you will be talking about primarily, you will be talking about when things are happening, and you might not get to the preparing of the work. And it's because you're asking trades, when do you want to do this? Well, this is the insightful part. We don't ask all the time when trades want to do something. We know when, and according to a flow, we should be doing them in a flow. We ask trades how we can adjust the dials, resources, crew counts, worker counts, materials, installation, quality processes, collaboration, and some of the fine tuning on a weekly work plan basis of how we're going to get that work and how we're going to remove roadblocks and how we're going to set up those supply chains to get there. If we're only ever asking, when do you want to do that? It might not be synced up with the overall project plan, with the milestones, or with flow. Now, can trade partners in a weekly work planning meeting adjust it within that week? Absolutely. But what would you rather trust? A bunch of people saying, here's when I think, or when I should, or when I could, or do we trust the collaborative process of when we created this flow system together? I'd rather trust the flow system. So my point here is that each tacked wagon has a work package. Each work package has work steps. And guess what's available as we head into our weekly work plan or into our Scrum sprint? You're right, the work steps. And let me say one thing beforehand, which blew my mind when Marco and Yanosh told me this. You might have certain work steps that are listed into this work package here. But if it's a pre-con meeting, that needs to happen 3 weeks ahead of time. So that work step actually goes 3 tack times before, either into another tax wagon, or depending on your format, it just goes into that tack time so that it picks up at the right time, enabling you to prepare for it at the right moment. And so let's pretend we are creating our weekly work plan. Let's say we're in our trade partner weekly tactical, and we're going to create our weekly work plan. What would I do, Jason Schroeder, to help Lean Last Planner Scrum practitioners to not get overwhelmed on large projects? Let's say we're on a $150 million hospital. Last Planner tends to break down when you get that big because the weekly work plans take so long to develop. Well, here comes Takt. Takt planning, you've done work packaging. From your pull plans, you've already created these Takt sequences. They are in a workflow, a trade flow, and a logistical flow. And each of them have detailed outlined work steps. And these work steps can be copied into the weekly work plan. So let's say you have a weekly work plan template, and I'm here on this week right here. I can go in here, and let's say I have these all listed out. These are my work steps, right? Maybe I even have a duration for each one, how they fit within that tax wagon or that work package, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, right? Okay. I can just hit Control C and Control V and automatically plug those in there. And then the trades and it already shows the templated sequence of within that work package, how the dates fit within that tack time. And if there's any adjustment with the trades, I can move them a day here or there. It's still collaborative, still talking to the trades. Excuse me. But we have the data input based on a flow. If you can see me, watch this, based on a flow, based on trade flow. Why would you not want trade flow? We do want trade flow trades. We planned it with trade flow. We're making you money. In fact, if I was a trade partner, we didn't have this. I ain't signing up for your job unless I upcharge it, right? We have these activities coming into the weekly work plan based on a trade flow. The other thing is if you're using a Scrum board, if you have, your backlog, your sprint backlog, and you're in progress and you're complete, and you want to go ahead and do a sprint planning meeting, you don't even have to do your backlog because your backlog pulls from these work steps again right here into the sprint backlog. And then can you see why does that show up so funny down there? Anyway, for those of you who are watching the video, I don't know why that's not rendering, but maybe it's because it's green. Oh, I know why. Because the Zoom is set to be a green screen, and it's attempting to superimpose the Elevate background. Whoa, I just figured that out. Okay, so these work steps can be brought in here, and these could be backlog items. You can even assign, do the evaluation, assign points to these, and then your team collaboratively moves them to the right every week to get the work done and to accomplish at the production level the things that they need to. The other thing is, if you have, let's say this week, that was only one tax wagon. If you choose the other one, well, guess what? You can just summarize these into a work breakdown structure, and then you have your other work steps, and those are X'd out right here. Boom, baby. Look at that. Okay. And you're creating your weekly work plan. How much faster would that be based upon predetermined collaborative pull planning work packaging within a tax system based on formulas and flow? How much faster would it be to populate a weekly work plan or a sprint in a Scrum system using that method? And I think that you'll find that this is amazing. So if you have a system where you've got your master schedule, and then you've got pull plans, and then you've got a 6-week make ready look ahead, and then you've got your weekly work plan, and then you got your day plan. You're like, I've got 6 different things, and it takes me a million years to update them, and I got 6 different jobs, and it's all complex, and it's like, it's not working for me. Team, we need to get all this great collaborative pull planning data into this tax plan identify the work steps, which it ain't easy. It ain't fun. It's like writing a book, but you can do it. Actually, it's easier than that. Like you can get it done. Like you can get it done pretty nicely. Spend the time, and then you automatically have your weekly work plan items. You automatically have your sprint backlog items for when you go do the weekly work planning. I could see a project, even a large $350 million hospital, using effective weekly work plans for their entire job and quickly creating those within the right time durations and the system not breaking down if you did it this way. So if you're on the podcast, I really hope you followed along with me, because I'm telling you, this is the next step. I don't know why we haven't. Well, the Germans did, but I didn't. I don't know why we haven't realized this today. Literally, this is the magic formula. We need to get it done, because the current condition is there are behaviors and things that are just great about Last Planners that we need to keep. The only thing that I would like to mention right now is the whole concept of don't plan too early. If you're doing this collaboration with the trades, you need to plan that in a flow early. You need to buy it out that way, and you need to buy it out with. You can't be planning things just a week or 6 weeks earlier in that amount of detail. The reason people say that is because in CPM, it's just a bunch of random guessing. You can't guess what can happen. Ooh, I got you on this one. We should make some micro content on this. CPM guesses what's gonna happen 8 months ahead. That's dumb. We have no idea what's gonna happen. In Takt, you're identifying what should happen 8 months ahead. And we have production rates and the collaboration from the pull plan to identify at a high level the structure of the system. And it's very, very responsible. If you try to plan that detail out ahead in CPM, ain't going to happen, because it's guessing. It's trying to anticipate what will happen, not what should happen. This is not a push system. This is a holding system. The trade partners collaborate. They say, yep, I need more time. I need less time. Here's the formula. Here's the throughput time. And we are going to contractually hold these dates, or we're going to adjust crew counts and resources to meet these dates. And so with the Last Planner concept of don't plan too far out ahead, too early, needs to be understood in context when we're talking about Takt planning. You will plan that far ahead, that early in Takt, based on historical production rates, flow, and the collaboration with your trade partners. And you'll adjust, but you need to hold the flow, and you can hold the flow. So those were the main things. And so what I'm saying is, why the answer to, and I even had this epiphany in the book, Elevating Construction Takt Planning. I had this part where Brad, one of the main characters, says, he's in a Last Planner meeting, and he's telling one of the trades, hey, can you commit to this? And the trades are like, I would commit to this, but I don't have the duct here, or I don't have the answer. I don't have the RFI. Well, that's because our supply chains and our planning systems, our production control system, isn't planning far enough ahead. And I neglected to write in the book, the climax is that now when they get into the Last Planner meetings, or when they get into their sprint planning meetings, and their daily huddles, what do they call them? Yeah, the daily stand-up. Dang it, I forgot what the meetings are called with Scrum, but basically your daily huddles in Scrum, your daily stand-ups. Instead of the trades being like, well, I could commit to that, but I don't have the ducts and I don't have the RFIs, because you have this syncopathic production planning system that manages the supply chains, you do now have the duct, and you do now have the answers. So they're like, absolutely, I can take care of that Wednesday and commit to that. And they're focusing their supervision on getting the work done, instead of their supervision and trying to accomplish impossible feats. So bottom line, you're going to save, like, I'm telling you, I'm not even making this up. You're going to spend 1/12 of the time, 1/12 of the time managing your schedule. If you learn Takt fast, sign up for our Takt Master certification training. Just call me. We'll get you in the class. It'll be great. Let's get your whole company in there. I'll give you a deal on the discount. Get people doing this Takt planning, and then get them into your weekly work planning format, and jam. And I promise you it's going to be remarkable, because the current condition right now is that it takes way too long for us to do our schedules, our short interval planning. And so my challenge is, let's get going. Let's get this done. We know how to do it. Now that we know how to do it and people are doing it, it's time to go. Let's go. On we go. We'll see you soon.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.